All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe we are live here with Chris Cooking Nashville in both the Chris Cooking Nashville channels and the Chris Cooking Nashville Studio channel. And I believe this is also on Anita at Ketogenic Woman's channel. So we are
I
reaching
think it
out
is.
to,
I hope so.
yeah, we hope so. We hope so. We are reaching out to all of the community in all the different ways we can tonight. I am very excited to get to do this. For those of you who may or may not know a little bit of kind of my story of starting Chris Cooking Nashville, I was doing just whatever it is I could on YouTube, had no clue what I was doing. And I was crazy enough to send an email to the lovely lady on screen with me here and just reached out to her and said, "Hey, I'm doing all this stuff and doing these recipes, and I thought you might be interested." And I don't know what it was, but something, I guess, possessed her to say this was cool. And she reached back out and she kind of helped me out and gave me a bit of a start. And a huge reason Chris Cooking Nashville exists is because this lovely woman was so kind and so helpful to me. And
Oh,
so when I wanted to start doing some interview stuff like this, I could not think of anybody better. And I think I was actually the first interview on your channel, I believe.
you were because I did those cooking videos for so many years, and I had wanted to start doing some interviews, and you were the first
Mhm.
person I thought of.
Oh, well, that is amazing, and I think it's super cool that we get to do this, and it's a really huge honor. So
Yeah,
she probably doesn't need a whole lot of introduction, but for everyone on any of the Chris Cooking Nashville stuff, please welcome Anita from Ketogenic Woman. And if you don't know who she
hello,
is,
hello.
you are definitely missing out. I have linked her channel in both of my channels in the description box. If for some reason you've been living under a rock and don't subscribe to Anita, you should go subscribe as soon as this live stream is over and show her some support because she is an amazing lady and has, I think, a really cool story. And we're going to dive into it tonight. So, Anita, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's an honor and a pleasure. I was so excited to find out you were going to start doing this, and so excited to be the first one.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think that this is going to be an interesting series of some questions that I just put together because I mostly for my own self wanted to know some of these things about you, but I thought, the audience probably would as well. And I think as we're trying to support people in their keto and carnivore journeys and people trying to take back their health,
Hmm.
these kinds of things are very inspirational. I know you were very inspirational for me when I was trying to figure out how to get started in this. And we can dive more into that. But just sort of on that note, so that people kind of understand why what you do is so inspirational and why you are who you are, could you just tell us kind of about yourself and really how you became the ketogenic woman that everybody knows and loves?
Okay, well, sure. I mean, it's been kind of a long, windy journey, but basically, I fought a weight battle for my entire life. Dieting up and down. My Weight Watchers career started at about 12 years old, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Just a long history of struggling in that department. And over the years, I had tried the low carb, Atkins type diets, and those were the ones that seemed to work for me. Just eating meat and vegetables and some fat just seemed to be the thing that worked, and so I kept kind of going back to that. This was before keto was out there. He was just low carb, and so that's kind of where I started to have some success and started to be able to lose some weight.
Hmm.
But I didn't really understand the full addiction part of it for me, like being addicted to carbs, because I really now believe and see that I
Hmm.
was. And just I guess I had a website that I called Ketogenic Woman because
Hmm.
I did, like, after I had done low carb for a little while, and a little bit of back and forth there, I did start to see some articles about the ketogenic diet, and I met somebody who her son had seizures. He had like up to 400 seizures a day, and
Wow.
they cured him with a ketogenic diet. Now it was a very specific medical ketogenic diet,
Hmm.
supervised by a doctor. I mean, he was drinking measured cream and butter and things like that. Um,
Right.
but it worked. I think he was well over 80% fat in his diet. But it
Mm.
worked for him. It stopped the seizures, and he's like a young man today that drives a car and holds down a job. Whereas back then, I mean, it totally healed him. And at the time, I thought, could that help me? And I started looking into it, and that is when I started finding articles, and I decided to start doing some recipes that were that way, higher fat,
Mm.
and those recipes ended up on my website, ketogenicwoman.com, but that was years before I started the channel. And so that was kind of my first dabble into the world of ketogenic.
Mm. That's amazing. It's so cool when you hear
Yeah.
those stories of like how we find our way into it, and a lot of it is usually because of some other seemingly crazy success story. And it's
Yes.
amazing. It's amazing how that stuff leads us in there. And I think that's why, I attached to watching your channel because I was looking for success stories and you were one of the people I came across. That's really amazing. So wonderful. So I'm curious, like, because I know I know your story because I've listened to a bunch of your videos with these kinds of things. But you talk about like the Weight Watchers and the trying to lose weight and
Yeah.
trying to take your
Yeah.
health back and all these things and feeling like you were failing and like it just didn't work and it was a struggle and all these things. So if you felt anything like I did when I sort of found keto and then carnivore and all that, I was like, "Ah, it's another thing. How do I know if it's going to work or whatever?" But there was a
Yeah.
moment for me where I said, okay, this is the moment. So I'm curious, what was the moment or like the final experience in your life that made you say, you know what, it's time to do this and I'm going to try it. I'm going to go for
I think it was,
it.
I hit a high weight of about 320 some odd pounds. I mean, I stopped weighing myself at some point because it was just so discouraging.
Hmm.
And I wanted to do things like, I mean, I was so much younger then. I mean, I wanted to do things, and I just found that I couldn't,
Mm.
and couldn't even go out for like a walk. Like I couldn't even walk down the street to the mailbox to
Right.
get the mail because I was in such pain from plantar fasciitis, and my
Hmm.
ankles and knees hurt. Like everything hurt. And I don't know. I just, sometimes you just wake up one day and you're ready.
Hmm.
And I was just ready. I was ready to make the change and to really commit. But even then, it was tenuous. I mean, I had some and ups and downs, but I just really started, doing it. I think it's really important to have people that you can talk to, like to have a tribe and a community. And I started to realize that. And I started to realize that it wasn't all just about the food, it was about other things in my life as well.
Mm.
And I just felt, that I needed to change a lot of things, like a lot of things. Um, I, and then I had this experience. Like I was losing weight. I mean, it was going slowly but surely.
Mm.
And this is before the channel. My dad passed away. I think that
Mm.
was a big turning point when he passed away. That loss was I find it difficult to talk about even today. That was in 2017, and he, losing him, and then I became the caretaker for my mom by losing him, so that was
Right.
part of it. And
Mm.
she had dementia,
Mm.
and she was well over 100 pounds overweight as well. I mean, everything I learned about food and self-deception and all those things I learned from my mom. We were partners in crime
Mm.
on many diets, and we off when I was young, we dieted together. There'd be a food plan on the fridge that she
Right.
would put up. We would follow it together, and
Hmm.
we both were deep in this. This next diet is gonna be the one that does it.
Yeah.
But anyways, after my dad was gone, and I started having to be very involved with my mom,
Mm.
I started to see glimpses of my future. And with her, as she was getting older, and even in her 70s, I noticed that, and I'm 66 now, so this is not too far away for me now at this point.
Mm.
But I started noticing that she couldn't get up out of a chair without help, and it was difficult for her to do everyday things that we all take for granted. And I had already been struggling with my knee and other
Mhm.
pain issues in my body. And one day I just realized, wow, this I'm going to be here soon. Like this is my future.
Right.
And then I really became connected with my why. I mean, here I was, her child, taking care of her for a totally preventable situation that she was in. And I do not hold that against her in any way. She didn't know any better.
Sure, sure.
She, like, her and I both didn't know any better. But as I started to learn, I tried to, I tried to change some of her eating habits, but it was
Mhm.
very difficult. She went to her grave convinced that I was gonna kill myself by eating butter.
Mm.
That like she just could not wrap around her head that I would do something so foolish as to eat butter instead of margarine, because in her mind,
Right.
those vegetable oils were the healthy ones. And
Mhm.
we had a few little clashes about that. But
Sure.
yeah, I think it was taking care of her and seeing these glimpses of what my life was going to be like,
Mhm.
that really kind of turned me around. And just all of a sudden, having a why is so important, because I don't think I had one before. I think before it was just, yeah, I want to lose. It was my eternal wish. I go to bed at night and pray, please let me lose 100 pounds.
Right.
Like that was the extent of my goal setting.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so many of us relate to these kinds of things where, we have that feeling like we want to go to bed and wake up 100 pounds skinnier because honestly, we
Yeah.
just feel so desperate to want that kind of relief and we feel so not in control of how to get it. And, your
Yes.
your story sounds so much like mine, where it's like, you get to this point where you just stop weighing yourself. And
Hmm.
it's not that you don't care, but you're too depressed to figure out how to hold up the weight of caring anymore. And
Yeah.
it's just, it just feels like you're so lost. So I'm so glad that you have found the new lease on life you have now, and it's amazing because you share this story and look at the people that you inspire and the things that come from that. And I think that's just such a really beautiful and wonderful thing. It's one of the reasons that when I saw your channel the first time and I started watching your stuff, I was like, this is really cool. This is a normal, regular person. It's like you don't
Yeah.
look like you're a GQ model with a six pack and all these kinds of things that I feel like I can't ever relate to. You're just a normal person being real about what you shared, that you are dealing with and have dealt with and how you're going about it. So I think that's wonderful. I think it's so beautiful. Now, when you did all of this, when you decided you were going to start, and you said you had some ups and downs, were you like real confident that keto and then eventually carnivore would work for you, or was it kind of dipping
Yeah.
your toe in?
Well, I think by the time my dad passed away, I had at that point lost probably about 80 pounds or so. So I,
Hmm.
I thought like it was going slowly but surely, and I
Hmm.
kind of knew that keto was going to be something for me. It seemed to be working for me. Where I struggled was with the keto treats.
Mm.
I just loved those. I mean, my whole life revolved around what fat bomb I was going to make next, and
Yeah.
what dessert, and I just really brought my addiction to things like sweets and chips and all right along with me. I
Hmm.
hadn't even really thought about carnivore at that point. I
Hmm.
knew about it. I had actually a couple of years before that run into Kelly Hogan online, like not literally run into her, but I found some stuff about Kelly Hogan online, and I thought, oh, that's a thing. Like
Hmm.
I was kind of surprised. I thought it was very fringe. Thought, oh, that can't be good. You need the vegetables, you need all these things. I really thought that. But a seed was planted in
Mm.
as many people they'll run into something. A seed gets planted. They might
Hmm.
discount it and say, no, that is not for me. And then a couple of years later, something, they remember something, and that's kind of what happened. I
Right.
Somebody else then suggested going on a 30-day carnivore challenge. By then I had a
Mm.
Facebook group that went along with my website and everything.
Hmm.
And they suggested, well, let's do a 30-day, carnivore challenge. And I thought, okay, I guess I could do that for 30 days, see what happens. I
Hmm.
felt really good on that. I just felt so good. But did I stick with it? No, I went back to keto when the 30 days was over, but that
Mm.
kind of stayed with me.
Right.
For it was something I thought it was good enough for a 30-day challenge, but I didn't think it was good enough for a lifetime of eating, I guess
Hmm.
is the best way to describe it. It scared me a little bit,
Hmm.
I just kept coming back to it, and now I've been pretty much straight carn. I mean, I have some seasonings. I have I still drink coffee. I do all those, naughty things that the carnivore police come after me every once in a while for. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I'm pretty good. I eat mostly meat, and a pickle might find its way in my mouth here and there, but not
Hmm.
not much more exciting than that, right?
Right.
So yeah, and that's been about 3 years now that I've been that way. So
Yeah. Well, that's amazing, and I I think it's funny. Anita and I have discussed and sort of bonded over the carnivore police because something that I think really made a huge difference for me when I started carnivore was I took a lot of inspiration from your channel because I saw you doing recipes and I saw you using some seasoning and and you were very like you were very vocal about like, okay, black pepper does not work for me because of oxalates, but if it works for you, cool. And
hmm
you were
hmm
very like really logical and level-headed, I felt like, about being carnivore doesn't mean that you can't have any of these flexibilities depending on what makes you feel best and what makes you the happiest. And I appreciated
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
That perspective was
Yeah.
so important and so helpful for me. And if anyone makes the carnivore police upset, that would be yours truly over here. So I
Yeah.
totally
I know
understand, but
you
I
do.
think
I
it's
know
so
you do.
cool. I do, and I'm okay with that because I know that for everyone
Yeah.
who's upset, there's also a whole bunch of other people who,
Yeah.
need just some extra support and some additional options. So,
Yeah,
um,
well, you have a family, and we all have families, and they don't all want they don't all have the same goals that we have, and so
Right.
it's nice to have foods that we can share with them. And
Hmm.
and there might be some, like my friend that had the child with epilepsy. They had to get
Hmm.
really creative with him because he was just a kid, right? He doesn't want to eat like
Right.
this.
Yeah.
But if you get creative with some things, and you can, bring people over who need the healing,
Hmm.
maybe you have a mom who's type 2 diabetic, or a husband who's got cancer, or you could
Right.
have all kinds of family members that need to be more on where we are with the carnivore diet.
Hmm.
And your recipes are a way for them to achieve that. I mean, so
Mm.
many people in my group, they every time you have something new come out, there's like 5 people that post it. It's like they just love you and your recipes. And a lot of them do have families that they're
Hmm.
trying to keep them happy at the same time they're trying to follow something. And I think that's
Absolutely.
totally legitimate. We all
Yeah.
have that to deal with.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of the greatest comments I've ever gotten was someone sent me a message and said that they appreciated my pizza crust recipe because they have a child with autism who would benefit from eating a much more low carb or as close to carnivore
Hmm.
diet as they can get.
Yeah.
But when they've tried to make recipes for them that look like foods that the child was used to, they don't process things the way someone without autism would, and so it's a weird texture, and the plate flies across the
Yeah.
room because they just can't
Yeah.
process that. And this lady messaged me and said, I made your pizza crust because these kinds of things never go over. And, I'm just trying to do the best I can for my son.
Yep.
I made your pizza crust. I crossed my fingers. I said a little prayer. And he sat there and ate the whole thing and never questioned that it was a pizza.
Yeah.
And she's like,
That's
for him, that's a huge win. And that was the
yeah.
moment I think that I realized, like, what you and I do with these recipes, it matters. There's people that it affects their daily life. And I think that's so cool that we
Yeah.
get to do that. Um,
Yeah.
so
I
as you,
agree.
yeah, as you do this kind of stuff, be it, on YouTube or just in your personal life or any of these kinds of things, what has been the biggest challenge during your low carb journey? Like what has been the hardest thing for you to overcome with all of this?
I think, looking back now, it was realizing that there were certain foods that I could not just dabble with anymore.
Mm,
And I have a sweet tooth. I'm gonna, admit it to everybody. I have a sweet tooth. I've always had a sweet tooth, but I've had to let it go, and
mm,
it's that's been difficult, and even now it's difficult. I mean, I'm getting the last of the stevia things out, and I
mm,
feel much better for it. I feel a lot of freedom for it. I guess it's the whole acknowledging that there are many foods that I have an addiction to. Plain and
mm,
simple, just like an alcoholic. And I never really wanted to admit that. I wanted
mm,
to think that I could play around with things. I wanted to think that on Thanksgiving I could eat what I wanted and go right back to normal the next day. There's
yeah,
the odd time that worked, but most of the time it meant weeks of trying to get back.
right.
And it's just too difficult. It's just too
Mm,
difficult, and I feel like I'm at peace with it now,
yeah.
big
Yeah,
time.
I totally relate to that. I think that for me, I did carnivore once and then I kind of went back off the rails because of a carb addiction I
Hmm.
didn't deal with. And then when I came
Hmm.
back to it the second time, like I really leaned into some of like your videos and that's when I started making my own recipes and trying to do more of that because I realized if I don't give myself an alternative to, well, I'm going to do this thing and then I'm going to go back, I'm
Hmm.
never going to address this carb
Yeah.
addiction, which is what I tried to sneak around the back door and not actually admit that I had a carb addiction, and it reared its ugly head, and it took me back down, and I gained a whole bunch of my weight back, and it was a big problem that first time. So I definitely understand. It's funny, you have a sweet tooth. I don't have a sweet tooth. I have a savory but terrible for you tooth. You know, the mashed potatoes and the potato chips and the,
Yeah.
you know, the snack foods and the, you know, the pasta and like all of the real carby things. Like I can just binge eat on those, and I did for a very long time. So I understand, but I
Yeah.
think that's cool the way you said that, making peace with it. And I think, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of a thing of being an addict, right? Like once an addict, always an addict. You know, no one ever says like I used to be alcoholic. They say I'm a
Yeah.
alcoholic, but I've been sober for however long. You know, sometimes it can be
Ex
50 years.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
I think
And
carbs are
it's
the
funny
same.
that you yeah, and with you saying about the potatoes and the savory things, I
Hmm.
can take it or leave it. You know,
Yeah,
potatoes just they don't talk to me anymore. Very few things
yeah,
talk to me other than something that, something gooey and sweet cannot be in
yeah,
this house. It just cannot.
yes. Yes, that makes complete and total sense. Complete and total sense. Well,
Yeah.
so you know, it's interesting when we get into like talking about carb addiction. I find that there's usually two elements to that when I talk to people about carb addiction. There's the physiological side of I'm
Hmm.
eating this thing and it spikes my sugar and it tastes a certain way and I get the
Yeah.
dopamine hit and the whole
Yeah.
physical addiction we talk about. But there's usually a different element of that that I think sometimes gets glossed over, which is kind of our relationship with that food and the cultural
Yes.
and social attachments to those things. I'm curious what
Yes.
role food played in your life before keto and carnivore, and how does that affect the way food plays a role in your life now?
It was comfort for me. I grew up in a household. I had two sisters, and my mother was. I know now. I mean, she also was a food addict, and had
Mm,
a sweet tooth as well, and she also suffered great trauma in her life, and she had was diagnosed with complex PTSD. She had a lot of mental health issues, and was a difficult person to get along with. I mean, we love our parents, but they are human, and they sometimes have baggage, and
mhm.
she did have baggage to spare. And in fact, what is funny about our relationship is there was a time in my life, before my dad passed away, where if someone had said to me, "Your mother's going to come live with you for 5 years," I would have said, that's not happening. No, no way, no how will that ever
Mhm.
happen. Absolutely 100% not. And it did happen. And it was the most difficult decision I ever made, was to bring her home, and it was also the best decision I ever
Mhm.
made. And I learned more about her in that 5 years and what made her tick. And I found out all kinds of things that she had never shared with me when I was a kid, that I would say we completely, I felt that this healed my relationship with her.
Mhm.
And so I'm so grateful that it actually turned out the way it should have.
Yeah.
All of these things, I carried so much pain and resentment and all kinds of things
Mhm.
from, you know just trauma of childhood, living with somebody who has mental health issues. You think everything
Mhm.
is your fault,
Right.
right? You think it's all you, and you don't realize, oh, they're a person that really has some difficulties.
Yeah.
And when I finally understood that, and had her there, and she shared so much with me, I kind of grew to the point of, yeah, she did the best she could, as we all do. She did the best she could with what she had.
Mhm.
And I don't know, there was just so much forgiveness and so much, I miss her now. Like, I
Mm.
and I really, but I'm glad that I had that time with her, because
Yeah.
if I didn't have that time with her, I'd probably still be feeling resentful about a lot of things. But
Right.
now I'm at peace with, everything that happened before.
Hmm.
I'm grateful that I was able to take care of her in those last few years, and for the gifts that I got in seeing what my future was going to be like if
Hmm.
I didn't change, and that it's never too late to make sweeping changes in your life. And
Yeah.
that is what I try to bring now to people. Like, that is what I want people to know. I mean, you're young. You're the same age as, my son, my oldest son.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure you guys are probably about the same age within a year or so.
Hmm.
And he's got lots of time to kind of figure things out and make changes. And I thought that, and I was actually told by a doctor that you can't lose weight when you're over 40. So I just went around for so long thinking it was just too late for me, and this was my life. I was done.
Hmm.
But I want people to know, people that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, that it is not too late. I mean, it's certainly never too early, but it
Yeah.
is not too late to just to do something, and to completely change how you eat.
Yeah.
If I can completely change how I eat, if I can be happy with just meat on my plate all day, every day,
Hmm.
anybody can, because as a raving food addict, as a raving sugar addict,
Hmm.
I'm really good with what I'm having. I'm loving it, and
Yeah.
I never want to go back.
That's so amazing. I know one of my favorite things is Dr. Barry always talks about if you can fog a mirror, it is not too late to change. And I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
is such a cool concept. Like if you're still breathing, you still have time to make a change in your
yeah,
life. And I think that's such an empowering thought. And it's definitely something that I know you really live that out in your life and on your channel. It's just such an inspiring thing, and I've really benefited myself from watching you do that. So um, I think it's interesting we change our whole perspective around food, and we find
yes.
freedom on the other side of that, and we realize it was never really the food that we wanted, it was the healing and the freedom that we were searching for, you know?
Yeah, that is really good. I like that because you don't know. I mean, I remember, in the early days of this, panicking sometimes. You mean I'm not gonna, like, how will I not have that at Christmas
Mhm.
when I'm, at Auntie whatever? Like, how will it, like, just almost like an anxiety around it. But
Mhm.
it's okay. I
Yeah.
never thought that how okay it would be, and you don't
Mhm.
know how okay it's going to be, and until you go through it and try it, and
Yeah.
see that, yeah, it really can be okay.
It's really, really amazing, and, I think that's part of what makes carnivore especially, but even keto, if you're doing it the right way, it makes it so powerful because it frees you from so many things, and, I'm curious, being free of all of that stuff and feeling the way you do, are there any foods or food-related experiences that you still miss or that you wish you had, like, a low carb or keto or carnivore option for, or is that just not really a thing for you anymore?
It's just not. I mean, even 3 or 4 years ago, it was still a thing.
Mhm.
And now it's just becoming less and less so over time. I'm also getting a little lazy in my old age. I'm starting, I'm like, oh, do I really want to make that and do all those dishes? Do I, oh, somebody else can make the thing to bring to Thanksgiving dinner.
Mhm.
It's just, I don't know what this has been, a slow evolution,
Yeah.
because I would say, yeah, even 3 or 4 years ago there was still some things I was missing, there was still some things I
Mhm.
struggled with, and I just don't anymore. I feel like that pull is just gone.
Right.
The noise in my head is quiet, and
Mhm.
and it's such a great way to be. It really is.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think I'm earlier in this journey than you are. And there are still times
Yeah,
where I
yeah,
feel sort of the social pull probably a little bit, but I
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
have a much better understanding and a much better perspective on like I don't really need that thing. Like sure, there's a part of my brain that says it would be nice, but I don't need that thing. And just knowing that and being able to sort of,
yeah.
keep that in perspective. I know
Yes.
one for me that's a really weird thing, and this is why doing the recipes I think have been so helpful for me is my family always sat down at the dinner table together. Like we gather around the dinner table and we eat and
Mm-hmm.
we talk about our day and we do all these kinds of things and it was a real place where we came together. And I think for me the recipes have really helped kind of give that back without feeling like I'm compromising on what I'm doing. And so that really has been a big thing for me. Is that something that you guys did? Like did you gather around a dinner table? Is that something you still do now, even you with you doing carnivore? Like what does that look like in your family?
So there was definitely lots of family dinners as I was growing up, and in fact, our house was the house where the strays came. Those people that don't have a family
Hmm.
because they're away, or any type of thing. My parents were both immigrants. They came from Eastern Europe, and
Hmm.
so there was a lot of people from the old country, and some of them came, and some of them were alone, waiting for family to come, that kind of thing. So we often, Thanksgiving and Christmas, we often had, strangers at the table, but nobody was a
Mhm.
stranger when they came. My parents were very welcoming to whoever came in. And then as myself and my sisters, as we became teenagers, of course we were bringing our own strays in, from our friends in high school, or a boyfriend or something like that.
Mhm.
And there, so yeah, totally used to a lot of big gatherings. And now I'm living in a situation where I've got various family members living in this house. Like, it's a big extended family, and two of my
Mhm.
sons actually live in the suite downstairs, and one of them is a vegetarian. Don't know where I went wrong there, but it happens, right? So, but the way I do it, like, I do try to have, obviously they're adults and they like to do their own thing a lot, but we do still have like we'll have a big family dinner. I
Mhm.
just make things, like, there's always plenty of meat for me, and anybody else who happens to want it. Every side dish is adaptable to. I mean, if anybody could come here, when I put out a spread, you can be a vegetarian, you'll find plenty to eat. You can be paleo, you'll find plenty to eat. You can be keto, you'll find plenty to eat. Carnivores,
Mhm.
you'll find plenty to eat. Doesn't matter. You can be, FODMAPs or GAPs or all the different things that are out there. You're going to find
Mhm.
something to eat, because I love doing that kind of spread. And
Yeah.
when family comes here from the main, live on Vancouver Island now, where you have to take a
Mhm.
ferry to get here. When family comes from the mainland to stay here, I do the same thing. I mean, I just make
Mhm.
a big spread. Doesn't matter, my grandson's gluten free now. Perfect.
Mhm.
Most of what I eat, he can eat. That kind of thing. So we
Yeah.
have we have I mean, it's doable for me. I
Yeah.
find it so easy to feed the masses, which I love to
Mhm.
do. I guess that's
Yeah.
where this all came from. I love to feed people, and I
Sure.
find it easy to feed them no matter what stripe they are.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally relate, and I think this is probably why you and I think, just connected the very first time we started talking so quickly because I think we have a lot of just similarities in that way, in the way we understand food and we understand family and Christmas and Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff. That
Yeah.
always happens at our house because I'm the one in the kitchen and I'm like,
Ah,
everyone get
yeah,
out of the
yeah,
kitchen and let me cook and let me
yeah.
do my thing. This is my thing. This is where I shine. So let me go in here. And we have family that's standard American diet, and my parents are more keto than they are carnivore a lot of times. And Ash does some keto and she does some carnivore, and then I do carnivore, but then sometimes I flex back the other way if I want. And it's there's all different kinds of things. We have friends that are vegetarians that we've had over at Christmas or Thanksgiving the same way, where it's like,
Yeah.
they're not going home to be with family. And I always tell people on my YouTube channel, the door is always open and there's always food on the table. Just make sure you knock before you come in so I know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way we approach that. So I think that's really, really cool. And I'm the same way. I love putting out, like, here's a huge spread, and I just love seeing
Yep.
everybody be happy. And
Yep.
I think there's a really interesting point, and this is something that I think fuels the philosophy of what I do, and it sounds like it does for you too. Food at its base level is a sustenance thing. It's about survival and
Hmm.
about, this is a thing we need this to survive every day. But because we are humans, we're not like the rest of the
Yeah.
animals, and we have more
Yeah.
complex social structure. There is something that we find to be very special about taking sustenance and providing it to someone else out of care for them. And I think that's
Yes.
a I think that's a
Yes.
really cool thing. And that's why I love the recipes so much, because I can do it and I can also feel good about it, because I know, it's good for me and it's hopefully good for them. And I'll still make things for standard American diet folks if that's what they want, because
I
it's,
do.
I
I do.
I
I
care
do
more
too.
about the
Yeah.
person than I do about the carnivore principle, right? It's like, I try to lead by example rather than by beating them up for doing it differently. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's really, really cool. So when you do spreads like that, I'm wondering, is there a particular favorite thing or several things that you as a carnivore always want on, like, your big, like, this is a big fancy spread or this is a big family dinner? Like, what are your favorite carnivore things you have when you're doing
Well,
that?
when it's a big, when there's a lot of people to feed, there's nothing beats a brisket. So,
Hmm.
so that is one thing for sure that you'll find. And then I try to have some other items, because there's always, those people that like the low fat chicken breasts and things like that. So you'll usually
Hmm.
find a brisket, and the fattier the better. You'll find, a chicken option, and bacon. Like, I always make a tray of bacon. That disappears. Doesn't matter if it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. A tray of
Hmm.
bacon will disappear. I'll make little bacon roses and things like that,
Yeah.
just like a fancy charcuterie,
Hmm.
big board, with what my mom used to call a deli plate.
Hmm.
I will, just load up cheeses and meats and things like that. And, I'll make a lasagna, a vegetarian
Mhm.
lasagna usually. That's for those other people. I don't, I really don't mind making that kind of thing. I don't,
Mhm.
and I guess that is one thing that you and I do have in common. And I'm sure that we grew up, and I just know it about you. You grew up with food. Food was love,
Mhm.
and I guess I still have that in me,
Yeah.
even though I now I almost could care less what I'm eating during the day. Although I am very specific about what I'm choosing, because I'm choosing carefully. Ruminants, and I got a thing about sardines, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
It's fuel and it's medicine for my joints, and my aging self. It's providing nutrients for that, and that's how I think about food now. But that
Yeah.
hasn't changed how I feel about serving food to others. It's still
Right.
a labor of love for me.
Mhm.
I love making a complicated recipe, for the vegetarians or whatever.
Mhm.
I just love doing it. So
Yeah. No,
food, I mean, cooking is therapy for some people.
yeah, absolutely. I definitely relate to that, and you're absolutely right. When I grew up, in that situation that I was in, food absolutely was love. And so it's like, food is love, and they say knowledge is power. So I guess feeding people food that is good for them is powerful love.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at those things, and I think that's really cool, though. There's something special about that. I love every time we have friends over, anyone comes over for dinner, any of these kinds of things. Ash always tells me, she's like, "No, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you know me." And she goes, "Right, which is why I'm telling you it doesn't have to be complicated, and I know you're going to do it anyway." And it's just what we do. So
Yeah.
I definitely think, that you and I are so similar in these things, and I think that's probably why your channel meant so much to me at the beginning, because I was looking for this stuff and there wasn't a lot of carnivore recipes out there. And,
No.
truthfully, even some of the ones that I did find when I tried, I kind of I didn't care for them that much because there just hadn't
Mhm.
been a lot of development done on this side of things. And you were doing stuff that had not seen anywhere else. And I was like, this is cool. This is how I take food as love and put it back
Yeah.
into,
Yeah.
the carnivore thing. So I think that's cool. Now, when you feed these different people, if you're surrounded by all these family members and some are vegetarian and some are, all these things, I'm sure you probably have this not only with family but also friends. What do you think? Because I know my answer. What do you think is the biggest misconception that people around you have about your carnivore thing or those kinds of things?
Well, I'm sure that some of them secretly think it's going to kill me, but I think, but they don't say that to my face. They,
Uh-huh.
if nothing else, my family supports me no matter what, and what they think privately, they don't tell me about. But what I do hear a lot is the sustainability. I think
Mm.
most people that I think that's a really big misconception that you can't sustain this. I mean, you see even
Mhm.
that's out there in the media too, like that it's not sustainable, so you shouldn't do it.
Right.
I completely disagree. It is 100% sustainable. I mean, you got people out there that have been carnivores for 10, 15 years. You got, well, actually, there's a lady in Alberta who's been eating carnivore for 65 years, and
Mhm.
Dr. Chafee went to visit her. So, a lot of people know about her. But like it is totally sustainable. I completely disagree that I don't know where that's coming from. And keto
Mhm.
itself, I mean, you can pretty much ketofy any recipe out there, and you've done a damn good job of carnivore-fying, everything out there. So
Mhm.
for those that want that is
Mhm.
there. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of prefer carnivore ice cream to regular. It's the carnivore ice cream with egg yolk and cream. That is like
Mhm.
rich and
Mhm.
creamy, much better than store-bought ice cream. So
Yeah.
these things are completely uh, they're completely sustainable.
Yeah.
I just don't. I never. It never gets old when I have a good steak in front of me and it's done medium rare, not well.
Uh-huh.
It never gets old. It never gets
Yeah.
old. I could eat it every day, and I do
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that, and I agree with you. I do think the the misconception of this is super restrictive and you're not going to be able to sustain that and like that whole kind of thing. I do think a lot of people don't understand because until you've done it yourself and until you experience the freedom of getting to let go of all that other stuff,
Hmm.
you don't have a place to come from, a perspective to be able to understand it. I think, and that's it's one of the reasons I think it's so hard, and that's why I love the recipe side so much because it's like if you can eat steak and salt and water every single day of your life and you never want to crave anything else, that's fantastic. I'm not trying to create a
Yeah,
recipe for you,
go for it.
I think that's great. But it's like
Yeah,
the other 99% of the world that's struggling and is addicted to all this stuff, like
yeah,
those are
yeah.
the people that I'm concerned about. And those are the ones where I
Yes.
say, okay, how do we sort of gateway drug them into being willing to try, carnivore or keto or whatever it is, and that's
That's
that's sort of
that
how I try to get around it.
exactly. Yeah. Yes,
So,
yes. And then I go back to the people who have an ailing family member, like a family member who's been diagnosed with something. That I
mm,
mean, that person might not be willing to look at meat, but they
yeah.
might be willing to have some waffles made with, eggs and protein powder, or
Mhm.
your mashed potatoes, or like the mac and cheese, which I still haven't tried. I have to try that because I love mac and cheese, but I'm
Hmm.
trying to sort of keep a lid on the dairy. But things
Yeah.
like that, like they don't have to
Mm.
live without that. So I
Right.
just
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think it's cool. So, what I think is funny is this conversation about, our recipes and the things we do and the people we reach out to and everything. It really speaks to, I think, the driving force of your channel, the driving force of my channel, and it makes me, sit here and kind of think about this. And I think I may already know the answer, but I think everyone else would probably love to hear you actually verbalize what is your, if there is such a thing, your purpose and your calling now in like the keto and carnivore world? Like, what is the passion that drives you to continue doing this?
I want to see other people that are my age, whether they're men or women, just understand that the power is in their hands to heal
Mhm.
what ails them. Maybe not 100%. Depend. I mean, carnivore doesn't cure everything. It's not a magic bullet, but
Right.
there's so much evidence out there that this is the proper human diet to be eating. Whether
Mhm.
I mean, if you're whether you're strict or you're not strict, anywhere from low carb to carnivore on that spectrum,
Mhm.
if you stay away from the seed oils, you stay away from the grains, the processed foods, the ultra processed foods, the sugars, like all those things that only became a food. They're not even really a food. They only became a food in, say, the last 100 years.
Mhm.
If you just stay away from those things and eat whole whole diet, foods that have one ingredient,
Mhm.
yeah, like anything in a box, just don't even go there. If you do that, if you do that, you have such a good chance of getting off most, if not
Mhm.
all, of your medications. I mean, I see those stories over and over again.
Mhm.
There are people my age who are on multiple medications, are already looking into, what nursing home they'll be in within the next few years. Like that is happening out there.
Right.
That is the reality of many people's lives out there. And I
Mhm.
just I want them to know that they have the power to change it.
Yeah.
And it's just by your next meal. Like just start with your next
Mhm.
meal. Take it one meal at a
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's beautiful, and I think that that passion for trying to help those people shines through in what you do. And it's, the reason that I found your channel is because my dad, he's somewhere around in the same age range that you are, my parents are. And when they were doing keto and my dad was watching YouTube videos looking for things because they love to cook and they're looking for different low carb recipes, he came across your channel.
Good for
And he's the one
them.
that told me about you. And he was like, I really like watching this lady named Anita at Ketogenic Woman. And he said, she's kind of about the same age, your mom and I are. And he's like, I feel like I just relate to the fact she's going through all of these things in this way. And I think it's real helpful for us. So I think you are very clearly reaching those people, and your the success of your channel is a great testament to that, the fact that so many people have found you and stick with you because they like the information and they find so much benefit in what you do. And I mean, even someone like me from a different generation, like I still find a lot of inspiration and benefit in your channel. And most of the beginnings of Chris Cooking Nashville, as it started to grow, was because of the fact that you had the ability to inspire so much that I was doing, and then you helped me along the way. So I think you were more
Yeah.
than achieving what it is you were hoping to do, and I think we're all very appreciative of the fact that you do that, because the world would be a darker place without Ketogenic Woman on YouTube for sure.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
and yeah, we just appreciate you being here. So funny enough, when you're not on YouTube, everybody I think kind of knows with the guitars and everything hanging in my
Yeah,
background all the time,
yeah.
kind of what I'm doing when I'm not on YouTube. But I'm curious, when you're not on YouTube, what do you like to do? Like, just what do you occupy your time
Well,
with if you have time?
so yeah, that's I still am working part time. I
Mhm.
am trying to. I'm I've given notice there a couple of times. They know I'm trying to leave, and we're working on it together to
Mhm.
phase me out of that job. What I really like to do is I love gardening. I am helping my kids put in raised garden beds. I mean, if they're going to be vegetarians, I want them to eat organic foods at the very least.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm helping them put in raised garden beds, and we're we're kind of land. A couple of my sons and I are re-landscaping in the back, and
Mhm.
so I love to do yard work. I really do, and I love going for walks and meeting friends for coffee, and like I'm kind of ready to I live a fairly quiet life. I don't I like to read.
Mm.
I'm sort of past the point of there was a time in my life I did a lot of entertaining and that sort of thing. I'm new around here, so maybe once I meet more people, I might do some of that. But
Sure.
yeah, I live a pretty quiet life. I like
Yeah.
to hang out with friends where possible and do gardening and walk, go for
Yeah.
walks and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, when I'm not on stage, I'm also trying to live a quiet life. So between the YouTube and the musician thing, Ash and I are pretty busy with being loud. But when we're not being loud, we understand. We love the quiet life as well. So that's super cool. So I know you said you're trying to phase out of the part-time job and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and sort of your YouTube just empire as it were that you have created is such an important thing that obviously means so much to so many people, and I'm sure there's so many more things you can do and more time to be able to put into that. What are kind of the goals, the future aspirations of the ketogenic woman channel and the mission you're sort of pursuing there? Like, how do you go forward from here? What do you want to see happen with that in the
Yeah,
future?
this is a question that I am asking myself lately. When I am out of my job, what do I want to do next? And I haven't quite figured it out. I do love talking to people. I love having conversations like we're having today, and I'd
Mm,
like to do more of that. And so that is for sure one thing. I don't know about coaching or anything like that. I'm probably not really good at that. Like I don't think that I want to do that. But I do like to have groups of people. I have a private membership, and we do Zoom calls. I love
mhm,
those. I love to see other people who are trying to do what, like we're trying to do this together. We see each other face to face and talk to each other.
mhm.
So that I would like to do more of that, because it's not really coaching. It's more like we're all in this together. How are we going to get through Thanksgiving, or how are we going
Mhm.
to like we all did a butter day recently, things like that. How are we going to survive
Right.
this day of just eating sardines? That kind of
Right,
thing.
right.
I love that. I love support groups. I guess that would be running support groups, type of
Yeah.
thing. That's something I like to do, and that's something that I think people need. You need to have a tribe. You need to have people to talk to who are going
Mhm.
through what you're going through, and maybe even they've been on the road a little longer, so you can learn from them, or you can learn from
Mhm.
yeah. Sometimes newcomers have the best stories too. So
Yeah,
that's the kind of
for
thing I
sure.
like.
That's really, really cool. I think that's wonderful, and I certainly hope that you get sooner than later the chance to do more and more of that, because I know there's a lot of people that would benefit from you having the time to be able to do that, and it would mean a great deal to all of us, not just the people in your private group, but just all of us that watch your channel, myself included. And you change a lot of lives, and we appreciate everything that you do. I've sort of been off to the side here watching the comments and the chat and everything go by today, and there's been a bunch of people here. I have seen the comment pop up talking about how great Anita is and how they love both of our channels, they love our recipes, how much we've impacted their lives, all this stuff, and
Oh, that's so
it's a
nice.
theme over and over
Yeah.
and over. Just seeing this theme all night has been very, very cool. And I just there's a bunch of people here that I know are from your channels, or from your channel, but I have also seen a number from my channel, and everybody just knows you and loves you, and it's a really cool running theme. I know we've had Maggie, the substitute teacher, has been here. Dustin from Keto Simple, Lynette from Keto Chow has been here. There's Carnivore
Nice.
K. There's Wallflower, which is Donna, and she says my two favorite cooks. I'm gonna pop her up there because she is a
Oh,
wonderful sweet
that's so
lady who is
nice.
super supportive of all the things that we do. There are just so many people in the chat tonight that are talking about how wonderful you are and are supporting the work that we do. And honestly, they're supporting each other. They're all talking to each other, and I think that's maybe the
That
thing that is so
yeah,
cool, like with our channels, we have a lot of crossover between our fans and that
we
watch our
do.
channels,
We do.
and
Yes.
it's really fun to see how they all support each other and interact both on your videos and mine, and I just think that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
is
love
there
doing
anything?
the Oh, sure.
Oh, no, I was go ahead, feel free.
No, I was going to say this is what I love doing the live streams because of the people that come into the chat
Hmm.
and interacting with them. So that's another thing that I definitely will probably do more of when I retire.
Yeah, for sure. It's fun to get to do lives. I know when I do my cooking lives, I love the questions and just interacting with people live. That's a lot of fun. So I was gonna ask, is there anything that we didn't discuss, or anything important that you want people to know before we sign off
I
tonight?
Yeah, I think that you asked some very good questions, and I think we covered the important things. I think I hopefully have explained, what drives me, to do this.
Hmm.
And I just want to say that I'm super proud of how your channel has grown. Did they mail you your silver plaque yet? Do you have it in your hot hands? Yet? Oh, there it is.
There,
There it is.
there it
Oh
is.
my
There it is,
goodness.
right back there. Yeah, yeah. My
Wonderful,
big head's
wonderful.
in the way
And
tonight.
yeah, and I have mine too. I mean, that was never a reason. Like, it was never that never drove me
Hmm.
at all. It was nice to
Hmm.
get that from YouTube. But I just feel like you took this. I mean, I've heard people have said to me, "Oh, Chris, credits you for his channel." I mean, I don't think that at all. Like, I think I, I I love you to pieces, and I think that your recipes are great. But you ran with it, like you took it to a
Mm.
whole other level, and for that I'm super proud of you. Like, you blew it out of the water, and I can totally see you getting what's the next one, the gold one or the diamond one, or what is it? I don't
Yeah,
know,
the
but I
the
can see
the
you getting that.
yeah, the gold one when you hit 1,000,000, that would be
Okay, okay.
a really wild thing. I
I
told
I
Ash
I
when
I can
the
s- I can see it happening for you. I really can.
yeah.
I really
Well,
can.
we'll certainly find out, because I have a big passion for being able to do this, and I love honestly getting to do this. And truthfully, you taking the time to invest in just sending people my way and helping me get that first momentum that I was able to harness. I mean, I did, don't get me wrong, I put in a lot of work as soon as that
I know
started
you
happening
did. I
to
know.
make this, try to grow it and learn how to do this the right way. But I was just kind of just inching along doing my thing, and you taking the interest you did was such a huge boost, and I was like, I felt when that happened, I felt um strongly that it's like I'm given an opportunity because Anita took the time to help me out. I've been given an opportunity, and if I harness it and I treat this like a business, not just like a, well, whenever I feel like
Hmm.
it. No, I'm going to treat it like a
Yeah.
business. I'm going to have an opportunity where I can grow something from the gift that she gave me and maybe turn it into something that helps a lot more people for a long time to come. And so I just,
Yeah.
I took a lot of inspiration from seeing you do that. And I took that boost that you gave me because you had a lot more subscribers than I did. And you sent people my way, and when I saw the momentum, I saw the potential. And, I was like, there needs
Yeah.
to be more of this. There needs to be more ketogenic woman channels out there. There needs to maybe be some more Chris Cooking Nashville type channels out there. I don't
Yeah,
know, but
well, yeah, you
you know,
you filled a gap there. There was a gap, because
mm,
I don't have a lot of skill in the kitchen. I just sort of put stuff together, and some of it worked, some of it didn't. You took it to a
hmm
whole new level, and so give you credit for that. And some of your recipes, people make them over and over again. So
hmm
there was a gap, and
yeah.
thank goodness you were there to fill it.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. Anita, I appreciate you very much, not just for the things that you've done for, helping me out with my channel and getting started, but I appreciate the work that you do in the space and the example that you set, the inspiration that you are to
Thank you.
people, and the number of people that tell me how great you are all the time is such strong evidence of how many people's lives you touch. And we just appreciate you. All of us
Oh,
do.
thank you
Ash and I
so
have said
much.
you're just family at this point. So if you make it to Nashville, you just come on over, you hang out. We have dinner on the table anytime you want it. So,
Well, that's
it's
awesome. I'm going to be in Tennessee in May, and I know that I will be seeing you at Meat Stock 2025.
yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, we should definitely arrange something for around then, because that would be totally
I
awesome.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. It's going to be a good time. And if anyone's watching and doesn't know what meat stock is, Anita and I are both going to be there. And it is going to be a good time over in the Smoky
Yeah.
Mountains. So you guys go
Oh,
to Meat Stock
yes.
2025 and check it out. They still have tickets available. So everybody jump on that before it sells out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Anita, just for your time, for your
My
generosity,
pleasure.
for your gift, just everything that you are, for just being sunshine. We just love you, and the community is so much better for having you. And we appreciate all of you guys watching. If you have not yet, go subscribe to Anita's channel immediately if you have not. Also, if you're watching this on the main Chris Cooking Nashville channel, I have linked below the Chris Cooking Nashville Studios channel, which is where in the future these kinds of things will be hosted. I want to do these first few on both because people don't know that Studios channel exists. But if you're into these kinds of things, you like the interviews, you like the health information, that's going to be on that Chris Cooking Nashville Studios channel. I would really appreciate the like and the subscribe and going over there and watching these videos over there because that will help us create a really cool space for that kind of stuff. So thank you guys all for being here. And thank you mostly to Anita for spending the time with me. We love and appreciate you. You guys make sure you eat your meat, love your life, and watch that example that Anita is setting for all of you of how to do so. We'll see you probably somewhere along the lines in the kitchen or the studio or something for interviews and recipes and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, it's been
Bye,
great
y'all.
being here. Good night, everybody.